So today what we're going to do is we're going to first show you a video of a compilation of different wild mink hunting muskrats. I'll mix in a few of my own videos just to show as an example, but most of these videos here are going to be ones filmed by other people showing actual wild mink that were captured on film capturing muskrats. Now you'll see there's a lot of similarities between these wild mink and how my trained mink behave. The reason is, surprise, surprise, there really isn't much difference. People that don't understand animals love to say silly things on these videos like, oh, you're forcing them to fight, and oh, and all this silly crap. It's really no different than what a mink would do in nature. The only difference is I'm there to make sure a hawk or a coyote or something doesn't kill the mink. That's the main difference. And the even bigger difference is if the mink has a bad day hunting, I still bring it home and feed it a square meal, whereas in nature that mink would go to bed hungry. Here we see a wild mink who discovers a muskrat grooming itself at the water's edge. The mink of course doesn't hesitate to leap at the muskrat. However, what's interesting is we see that once the muskrat escapes into the deep water, the mink abandons the chase. Now let's watch one of my own videos of my trained mink Missy, and let's see how she reacts. Here Missy enters into a muskrat burrow, and the muskrat quickly escapes into deep water. She also abandons the chase. The interesting thing is, I have seen mink chase and capture brown rats underwater, and they typically do this without hesitation. So if mink will capture brown rats underwater or fish underwater, why do they refuse to chase muskrats? Well, my assumption is it must be dangerous for the mink, and they have an instinct that tells them that they just shouldn't do that. Muskrats are quite a bit bigger than mink usually, and they can hold their breath far longer than a mink can. So it's possible that if they were to capture a muskrat underwater, that it would be quite dangerous for the mink. This person was fortunate enough to get footage of a wild mink who captured a muskrat on shore. You will notice that this wild mink uses the exact same tactics to subdue and eventually dispatch the muskrat. Muskrats may have the upper hand in deep water, but it's very clear who has the upper hand when on land. This mink takes the muskrat down and has complete control over the entire situation. Though the muskrat struggles a lot, it's very clear that his struggles are in vain at this point, and that the mink very much has the upper hand. A gentleman walking near South Oromocto Lake in New Brunswick, Canada, happened upon this rare scene. Apparently, this wild mink discovered a muskrat as it was traveling across land to find a new territory. We can only assume this muskrat must have been pressured pretty hard to leave its previous home and risk its life in a dangerous journey across land. If a mink finds a muskrat away from water, the muskrat really has no chance at escape. Any hole the muskrat might try to hide in, the mink can of course follow. Not only that, but a mink can run far quicker and for much longer than a muskrat could ever hope to achieve. The muskrat's only real chance for survival is to try to bluff the mink out of a conflict. If the mink isn't very confident in itself, or maybe hasn't had experience killing muskrats before, there is a good chance that the muskrat can scare the mink away. However, with a big strong buck mink like the one shown in this video, chances are the muskrat's going to be the mink's next meal. In 2007, a young family was visiting Fillmore Glen State Park in upstate New York, where they saw this mink versus muskrat conflict. We see in this video, just like many of my own hunting videos, that just because there's a little bit of water doesn't necessarily give the muskrat the upper hand. Though it appears this mink struggles a little more in this shallow water than it would on dry land, You can tell it still has the upper hand in the conflict. Had this stream been a little bit deeper, however, the story might be different. In a second, the video cuts out for a moment, so it's not quite clear how the muskrat temporarily escaped. But based on the comments in the video, I have a suspicion that human intervention could have possibly been a factor.
Like throwing a rock at it.
Though the video doesn't show the end of this conflict, I'm quite confident the mink still got his muskrat dinner, despite the assumed human intervention.